Okay, you're in the research center where there are scientists working.
Well, that'd be great if a scientist could answer, because they would know firsthand.
Well, they don't even know what your questions are.
Well, I can give them the questions. I have them right here.
I'm not even sure if we're authorized for somebody to answer your questions.
Why is something that's so-called healthy being kept secret? It's not like I'm a terrorist or something. I'm just asking
Shira,
about milk.
Look, you're going to have to send me an email with the information about your documentary, what you're doing this documentary on.
I'm asking about the milk protein and how it actually excretes calcium. I'm asking about the proven connection between milk and cancer development, food assistance programs, and lactose intolerance, and also where they get the vitamin D that they add to the milk. So these are factual, nutritional, informational questions, and I just want to know what the USDA has to say about these medical journals.
I don't know. Send me that email, and I'll be happy to talk to you. Have a good day.
In 1890, the population moved from farm to city, making it necessary to mass-produce milk. To make American dairy products more acceptable abroad, the USDA established the Dairy Division in 1895. 1919, educational milk campaigns were developed to deal with the surpluses of milk and dairy products from World War I. And as a result of the ongoing milk campaigns, substantial increases in milk consumption occurred.
When you take a break, make it milk for vitality.
Ridiculous. So it's not based on science.
Basically, it's not that you're allergic to milk. You're not really getting the true information.
In other dairy products, it's a recipe for a heart attack.
He couldn't. There was no way he could. I mean,
you always want a constant supply of milk.
Would you like to be interviewed for a documentary?
It ain't porn or anything, is it? Because you'll have to pay me.
Where did you get your information from that dairy is healthy?
Just in the last couple years from the TV. So no, I have not looked into it. I've just kind of taken their word for it. They're not going to say, well, I shouldn't say they're not going to say something on TV that's not true.
The medical specialist stated, "It is my opinion that the ears, nose, throat, and accessory organs of all participating subjects examined by me were not adversely affected in the 6 months period by smoking the cigarettes provided." Remember this report and buy Chesterfields, regular or king size.
But they wouldn't say that milk is good for you if it really wasn't. And again, that's what we feed our babies.
Calci Yummy. That used to be the TV commercial in England. Milk is Calci Yummy.
Well, I once heard an interesting theory about how apparently that whole food pyramid that was introduced in lots of schools around the world in the, what was it? I don't know if I'm right with the time, but the 40s or 50s, that actually was given and put together and budgeted by the Milk and Meat Association.
Don't just take my word, learn to research it on your own.
Because if you learn how to research it on your own, then it means you've made a step outside of the box. And you're taking your health and your life in control.
Why is it good? Well, it's good for the bones, teeth, everything. Great food.
Strong bones, and what's that commercial? About milk? Yeah, I mean, what is got milk? Got milk? It's called the dairy industry. They have a very large lobby. They spend a lot of money.
Why do we believe that milk is good for us, though?
One more time. Schools. Taught by little kids that it's good for us. Without proof, kids accept what their parents say, what their doctors say, and they usually don't question it.
My grandmother, who was a nurse, took me to Mayo Clinic to try and figure out what was wrong. And they did all these tests and said, we can't find anything wrong. Take her to a psychiatrist, which they did not do, thank goodness. But I went all that time. And one of the main things that was giving me a hard time was the dairy. And it just happened my dad was a milk processor.
My name's John McDougall. I'm a board-certified internist. That means I'm a medical doctor that takes care of adults primarily. And I'm the luckiest doctor in the world because my patients get well. Looking at the meat and the dairy group, of those two groups, which should I give up? The question is, you should give up the dairy group. You'll get much better results than giving up the meat group. And the reason is dairy is basically liquid meat. It has essentially the same macronutrient properties, the same amount of fat, cholesterol, protein, lack of fiber, and so on. They're very similar in their nutritional makeup, but dairy has some extra problems, allergy problems, autoimmune diseases that they cause.
If I now drank milk or had a product with any kind of dairy product, tomorrow morning I would wake up with swelling and a great deal of pain.
It causes an autoimmune response in me that makes me ache all over. I get like an arthritic reaction where my joints start aching, and so if I have dairy over a 2 or 3 day period, a little lasagna here or a little vegetarian pizza there or just various things like that, I begin to feel like I'm going to become totally crippled.
They think dairy is health food. They look at a block of cheese and they think strong bones. They don't think glob of fat. So psychologically they eat dairy guiltlessly, and they eat large amounts without any reservation. So if I was going to give one powerful message to a patient, to a community, to a country, to a world, is get off the dairy. You'll improve your health more than getting off the meat.
The way it manifested in me was that my face was constantly broken out.
Said he didn't know whether going on a non-dairy diet would cure the migraines, but it certainly ought to be worth the effort. And I never had another migraine.
This kind of deception is not like damaging your TV or your car. I mean, these are your children. These are your husbands and wives and your mothers and fathers that are being hurt by this dishonesty. That's the problem. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Now, from what we're learning, it's sort of ironic. It does keep grown-ups from growing old in a very special way. It gives them coronary artery disease.
Milk creates an inordinate amount of phlegm.
I have not had one sip of milk for 20 years.
And I had a pretty juicy nose when I drank milk. I didn't connect the two.
I haven't broken any bones for years.
When they say milk has calcium, everybody needs calcium, they leave the consumer to make the connection that therefore milk is a good source of calcium, which is of course absolutely not true. The fact that the animal proteins are highly represented in dairy products will cause negative calcium balances for people, and it will actually be the cause of osteoporosis and things of that nature. So, but these are things that people don't understand. So it's a very, very clever way. You need fat, you need protein, you need carbohydrate, you need calcium. Yes, there are things in milk that you need, but you don't need milk to get them.
Do you drink milk?
I actually love milk.
You do?
I love milk, absolutely. I've loved milk all my life.
Laying down the facts: heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, infection, and so on.
I think there are federal laws that protect consumers from false advertising.
Oh, I'd like that.
That would be great, right?
This is the Wild West. The dairy industry can do whatever they want. They got the money, they've got the political control, there's nobody out there to put them in line, and so that's what they do.
From 1988 to 1993, there were over 2,700 articles dealing with milk recorded in the medicine archives. None of the 2,700 researchers spoke of milk as an excellent food, as we have been told by the dairy industry. Instead, intestinal bleeding, bovine leukemia, AIDS-like virus, asthma, childhood diabetes, heart disease, anemia, arthritis, allergic reactions, and cancer were the focus. If all this is really true, why haven't we heard about it?
I think that's it. This is like the best place for breakfast.
He's all boarded up,
Check
is
it
he?
out, man.
Yeah, I see people. Would you say it's difficult to eat absolutely non-dairy?
Especially at a restaurant.
It's crazy.
Because butter is one of the main things that they use for oil. Because it turns the food brown.
Can you help us out here? What is what and whose is who?
The poached egg.
That's the poached egg? Okay, and that's her bagel. Oh.
I hate to say it looks like they put some sort of butter or something on it. You see? Like the yellow?
Might be just in the pan too.
Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Butter on it.
I did say, right? I did say. I thought you were going to eat healthy. Say, hey, you're going to try. And
Yeah, I am. Just water and milk.
Build strong bones, right?
They have a poacher. It's like a pan.
Right.
And if they don't put the butter, it sticks to the poacher.
So even though you said no butter, they don't listen to it?
It's not safe to go out and eat. Really, if you're really deathly allergic to something, it's not safe. A lot of times it'll say in the menu, no cheese, they'll put cheese in it. If you're dairy allergic, what do? You've already taken a bite. I try to get this across to them, and they're like, I've been doing this for 25 years, and well, so have I, but people get sick. I have a mother that has asthma, so that's how I know a lot about what glutens and the dairy and all that, because it affects her breathing.
Tom, and where are you from?
Well, Golden Valley.
And what do you do?
Nothing. I'm retired.
How do you know that milk is good for you?
I don't know. I just always told it was.
Why do you think it's healthy?
Well, because you've been told that all your life, Everybody tells you it's healthy.
I mean, they used to believe that the earth was flat, and everybody believed that.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly some crazy person came out and said, no, the world is round. So if everybody believes that milk is healthy for you, But if one person came and told you,
Well, that's their opinion.
So you find it natural that a human drinks milk after its infancy?
Yeah, it's probably better that they have their mother's milk, but cow's milk is all right, I guess.
I'm Trooper, and I'm from Williams, Arizona, and I rob the Grand Canyon Railway.
Do you think milk is healthy for you?
Yeah, especially when you're a little one.
When you're a little kid?
Yeah, the little whippersnappers need milk.
What is it that's in milk that you think is healthy?
Calcium.
Calcium.
For bones and teeth. Yeah.
Where else can you get calcium?
Calcium?
Yeah, apart from milk.
You can take supplements. Supplemental calcium. Probably meat. Any meat you eat probably has calcium in it. Anything with blood in it has calcium, right? Yeah, how it works. The bloody things have calcium. Drink blood, not milk.
I think the cows that the milk comes from are pumped full of steroids and hormones and everything else, and it's in our milk and our meat and the foods we eat and all that you know, and we're ingesting it. It's not good for you. But it's good. I mean, it sure goes good with chocolate cake, right?
Well, growing up in school, you know, in grammar school, we were exposed to cow's milk as being a source of calcium and nutrition. So the food pyramid is wrong. I know that now. The ADA food pyramid I don't agree with. And
do you know who made that pyramid?
Yeah, the companies that produce the products that they mention on the pyramid.
And USDA, their principal interest is protecting the livelihood of the livestock and dairy industry in this country. They also are the ones who then take this report and put out a very practical message for the public called Dietary Guidelines for Americans.
They're telling Americans what to eat, based supposedly on health, but they also have a mandate in law that they must promote American agricultural products, even the ones that are unhealthy for you.
Conflicts of interest statements are important, very important, almost sacred. And that's supposed to be open to the American public. It's just readily available so that everything's transparent. That's the story. Well, Dr. Bernard's organization went to the USDA and said, we'd like to see the conflicts of interest statements on these 11 people who were on that panel. Because he knew, and I knew, and some others knew, that there were biases there. And we wanted to see how well it was stated on their personal conflicts of interest statements. The USDA would not give them those conflicts of interest statements, even though it's a law that is supposed to be transparent. They had to go to court to get the court to force the USDA to let them see the conflicts of interest statements.
The Department of Agriculture and the people that they had appointed to this committee had industry ties. Out of 11 people on the committee to decide what Americans are supposed to eat, 6 of the 11 had financial relationships with either the dairy industry, the meat industry, or the egg industry. Considering, as they made up the guidelines, was not accessible by the public, and that it was done in violation of federal law.
Hey, 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 young,
introduction of dairy products, the introduction of milk, it's forced upon indigenous communities.
My body system is not used to cow milk, and there's a reaction that ends up happening in my body where a tremendous amount of bloating happens, and it really has impact on my system.
The mothers that are breastfeeding, right before that they, within 4 weeks of delivering a child, then they will be enrolled in what they call a voucher program, and that voucher program is WIC. And the theory behind that is to make sure that the mother has enough nourishment through the dairy products.
Food assistance programs, unfortunately, have been used not for the health of the people who are there to benefit, but they're used as a dumping ground for agricultural commodities. Dairy prices are low. The government buys them up. They put them in prisons. They put them in schools. They go into other food assistance programs.
There's a lot of families that are on the Women, Infant, Children program. And I myself was also a participant of that program when my children were young babies.
If you look at the Native Americans, they have this enormous prevalence of obesity, an enormous prevalence of diabetes, which is taking an incredible toll on that population. And what are the foods that they're given to eat? Not traditional beans and corn and grains that would be normal and that would be healthy. No, it's milk. It's cheese. It's high-fat, high-sugar, high-calorie things that are making them sick.
With that voucher that they gave you, did they allow you to buy vegetables and fruit? I mean, just basic foods that you cook and that are nourishable?
No, they just let us buy like cheese and then eggs.
They have a lot of control on how things end up happening. And I really firmly believe that the Dairy Council has a significant amount of influence even on the educational system.
Kids go to school, the local people who are running the program, they're the ones, the teachers and stuff, they start putting pressure on the local kids because they believe that, dairy's really good, you better drink your milk.
When my daughter was in school, in the cafeteria that she ate in, all the adults would end up telling them, you must drink all your milk, and you cannot end up leaving a cafeteria.
Organizations that actually allow this dairy, the school lunch program to exist, and the WIC program, and food sold and made available in hospitals, I might add. Those are three big programs, big federal programs. Those programs are offering food that are nothing more than the garbage from the dairy and livestock industry. They're subsidized. If a school wants to have access to the school lunch program, and they almost all do, they have to agree to offer the dairy option. That's disgusting. That's been existing for a long time. It should stop yesterday.
She tried to tell many adults, I don't drink milk. I'm not used to milk. They would force her to end up finishing, her milk carton. And she would be very, very upset over that. And she would be telling me when she got home, she says, Mom, they forced me, to drink this milk.
National Dairy Council is obviously interested in selling milk. So even for individuals who complain of indigestion or other stomach cramps, other stomach problems, the Dairy Council wants them to keep trying to drink milk.
And they do drink the milk, and then they go to class after they've had their milk at breakfast and had their milk at lunch. They're not feeling good. They're going to be squirmy in their chairs. They're not going to be able to concentrate. They're not going to do as well in school. So in a way, it's like we're setting our kids up, those children who don't tolerate milk well, to do poorly in school.
I see some children that are saying that they have a stomach ache. They don't want to take the milk, or some of them will say that it's hurting their stomach.
When you think about it, these programs are quite racially biased because so many young children and so many individuals in America are actually lactose intolerant. And, they're interested in health just as much as the next person who isn't lactose intolerant.
They go in, to end up telling a lot of our young children that, you have to drink milk. And the big logo that is out there is got milk with people, with milk on top of their lips.
What is lactose?
I don't know. I know lactose intolerant is when you can't drink milk, but I don't know what lactose is.
Lactose? Sounds like it might be lack of milk.
Lactose, I'm assuming it's something that's in milk. It's something that burns right here.
I couldn't tell you. I know I'm lactose intolerant.
When I drink milk, I take off like a rocket.
What did you say?
It messes with my sinuses. I'm allergic to it or something as I get older.
Tolerance is putting up with her.
Yeah.
But lactose, I don't know what that is.
Lactose is a sugar. It's milk sugar.
It's glucose attached to galactose.
It's what we call a disaccharide.
And when you're a little baby who's nursing, you have an enzyme that breaks those apart, and you can absorb them. But after the age of weaning, normally you lose that enzyme.
We don't have the enzyme to digest milk past the age of 2, unless you were born in the United States, maybe after 2 generations.
A genetic mutation that's carried by about 85% of Caucasians has allowed them to digest this milk into adulthood, which is not the case for other races and certainly not the case for other species. Lactose intolerance is totally normal. It's a sign that you ought to get weaned.
All I knew was what my mama told me. She just said it was good for you, you need to drink it. Said it must make your bones strong and all that.
We're the only species after weaning we tend to want to keep on drinking milk for the rest of our lives in many cases. And what do? We go get it from another animal. Why don't we drink dog milk?
My milkshake is better.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah.
Can you describe to me what you see when you picture a dairy farm?
Obviously not the slaughterhouses and things like that you don't want to picture. You picture kind of the nice rolling green hills and the little red barn in the hills, and yeah.
How does a cow give us milk constantly?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I just know that it comes in cartons.
Okay, what are we betting? Is there anything that we can eat inside?
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna try this out. Okay, flour, thyme, milk.
Use all the toppings right there. No dairy products on them.
I won the bet.
I've never liked milk. Ever.
Dairy cows, as opposed to beef cows, the job of a beef cow is to produce calves that become steak on your plate. The job of a dairy cow is to produce milk so that you can have milk, ice cream, cheese, yogurt, all the good stuff.
Man, you're educating me. What are you talking about? How do cows give milk constantly like that?
Eating hay, corn, different stuff.
When you have a baby, don't your titties swell up?
It ain't gonna swell up, but you don't want to eat the right stuff.
Wait a minute. Naturally, what are you supposed to say? Not titties. What you supposed to say?
Breath.
Breath.
Whatever.
Breasts.
Whatever.
Some breasts.
Man, I gotta go back to work.
Don't they swell up? That's what you're supposed to do, right?
In order for a cow to give milk, she has to give birth to a baby calf. And that starts the lactation process.
calf goes and lives in its own little house.
Okay.
And basically that is to prevent disease. If the calf stays with the mama, it can be contaminated with some of the manure or anything and can get Johne's disease or can get other bacteria or, just be exposed. So you want the calf to be in a clean environment. And the mama can't stay with the calf because she's got to milk. She's got all this milk she has to give.
What happens to the milk from the sick cow?
Those we actually what we do, we pasteurize that and feed that to the babies.
A cow can have an infection in her udder, which is called mastitis. So the somatic cell count relates to the incidence of mastitis. So if the cow has a low somatic cell count, and somatic cells normally occur in the milk. White blood cells are everywhere, right? And so they're in the bloodstream, they come into the milk, and they exist.
White blood cells are pus cells. And in analyses of the dairy that's being sold, they have 350, 400,000 pus cells per cc, along with 25,000 bacteria per cc is found in regular milk that you buy in the stores.
White blood cells are present just naturally to help the baby cow, but humans, when they're consuming cow's milk, that's really not a concern. And what it ends up really being is just basically pus that is present in the milk. It doesn't really help our immune systems. It's meant for a baby cow's immune system. So that's just something else that we don't need.
Milk is really a byproduct of blood.
Okay.
I don't want to freak you out or say something bad, but where does milk come from? The cows, it's a normal process that the cow secretes the oxytocin and then the blood.
So how long have you been in the business?
Born and raised in the dairy business. In our area, Greater Southwest Milk Marketing Agency, we're almost totally BST free. I just never used it. One of our concerns is the organic situation going on. I'll put my milk up against any organic. But the thing of it is, it came from BST, which is just costs me money, of course, to use it, right? It makes your cows sicker and stuff. When you have more problems, you have more ailments on your cows because you're pushing them so hard, and the consumer doesn't like it. You can say it's already in milk, and you can tell them, the consumer, till you're blue in the face, but when you have a syringe there.
Well, Michael R. Taylor, FDA's deputy commissioner who, in addition, wrote the no labeling RBGH guidelines, was previously employed by the Monsanto Corporation as their attorney. So let's recap. Cows that are injected with RBGH have higher levels of IGF-1, which is associated with cancer. The use of the hormone also increases infections in the cow, which are treated with antibiotics and are found in the milk. FDA seems to be convinced that RBGH is okie dokie and bans labeling milk RBGH free. So you will never know.
To having cheap food in this country. We in America want cheap food. We have a cheap food philosophy.
We cannot change our price or get more for our milk to cover our costs. So right now, this past year, there's a lot of guys losing equity and guys that are just not making it, even with large dairies.
We're required to pay 15 cents a hundredweight into a dairy checkoff program for dairy promotion, dairy research.
You're talking 15 cents on all the milk in the United States of America? Just figure out what that exact figure is and then multiply it.
It comes to like, what, 200 million, something like that?
A year?
The margins get smaller and smaller and smaller every year, so to make a profit that would sustain a lifestyle of this is what I want to do, you have to milk a few more cows.
That's where Monsanto came in with the brilliant idea to increase milk production. So the cows make more milk, so the farmers can make more money.
Like any other industry, they have to meet, they impact the environment, like the air, like the water and the soil, for example.
From here to the groundwater, we're almost 300 feet deep. So, but that's one of our constant issues, is to make sure we don't do anything to pollute, to contaminate the groundwater or surface water.
The past 2 years, I spent like $300,000 in environmental improvements.
When we talk about global warming, we tend to talk a lot about CO2. But there is a gas that is far more dangerous.
It's methane. The cattle industry is contributing, a gas that has 23 times the power to create a greenhouse effect that does the CO2 from cars.
Dairy industry, on one side, it's a big economic generator.
Animal agriculture has grown enormously. People consume 5 times as much animal products today as they did 50 years ago. Our consumption will double again in the next 50 years. Already, the atmosphere we're breathing has more than twice as much methane as it did a century ago. Just imagine how bad they'll be if we don't start doing something about it.
And the contamination to the air pollution.
The one animal that's the most powerful emitter of methane are dairy cows. They need to eat an enormous amount of food to produce all that milk. According to the UN, it's a bigger source than all the cars and trucks and planes and trains put together. 70% of formerly forested Amazon is now being used for pasture land. And more is being used to raise crops to feed the animals. So this is one of the biggest sources of deforestation in the world.
We have been going to the Caribbean, to Central America, Southeast Asia, and places like that, to cut down forest, not just to get the wood, but to create pasture land for cattle. You know, the big industry corporate types, they'll go in there, we want this, they'll kind of set it all up. You know, take down the forest, sell it off to the lumber, make some money there, you know, gets all this rangeland, grow the cattle there. They actually chase off the peasants who had the land before. They go up into the mountains, they get bitter, they're destitute, and the first thing you know, they're now getting organized and they create political violence. They become the guerrillas of that country.